Welcome to the brand new series that I like to call What's in the Tank. Let me show you how it works. Each video, I will reach my hand without looking into this small tank, which is filled with 30 slips of paper. On each slip is a species of fish and an artistic challenge for me to try to complete. There are 5 tiers of cards that I can pull at any given time: common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary cards. In the tank, there are 12 common cards, 8 uncommon cards, 6 rare cards, 3 epic cards, and 1 legendary card. With each tier I move up, the difficulty of the challenge that I have to complete will also increase. I'll be keeping track of which fish I have drawn and the amount of successful and failed drawings I have over the course of the series on this graphic, which will be shown at the beginning and end of each video. And with that explained, let's get straight into the video. All right, the time's officially come for me to draw out the first card of this series. Again, I'm not gonna be looking at this when I'm drawing it. It'll be completely blind drawing, so all I'm gonna do is take this, reach my hand in the tank, swirl around, and I'm gonna choose this one right here. We have the neon goby, which is gonna be an interesting fish to draw. And the challenge for this is digital, so that's a medium, and I need to use a monochromatic color palette for this, which means one color can be different values and shades, but I have to stay within one color. It's actually gonna be a really fun one to draw, I think. Digital is kind of interesting to start off as the first one. Monochromatic color palette, that'll be really interesting. This fish is super colorful, so it's gonna be interesting to kind of choose which colors I wanna be using for this, or which color, I guess, and kind of lock it down into that one color. Okay, now that I know what fish I have, I'm just gonna start off by first going online to look at some photos. I'm actually pretty unfamiliar with neon gobies. I've never really looked at them, so I don't really know what to expect when I actually do this. Okay, so the first thing I'm actually noticing is this is not the fish that I thought it was. I was actually thinking of a different fish that was way more colorful than this one. This one's actually pretty, not drab, but it's much more muted in terms of its color palette. It's mainly just blues from what I can see, and then there's 2 pretty clear black stripes, one that runs down the flank and then one that runs down the entire dorsal of the fish. Other than that though, there's not too much color. I see a little bit of kind of a pinky color around their gills, but everything aside from that's kind of like a more transparent white sort of color. I'm glad I looked at this though, because this is actually very helpful. It's kind of giving me a few ideas of some things that I can do to actually make this fish pretty interesting, but it is a very small fish, so it's going to be interesting to see how this actually goes. I started off this drawing like I would any other drawing. I uploaded my reference photos and then I got started with sketching. Now for the sketches, I did 2. I did 1 close-up on the head, and then I did 1 full body sketch. I did these sketches insanely fast. Both of them combined took me about 10 minutes to complete. This was just really me trying to get the feel for the fish's anatomy, get something down that looked relatively close, and then I could move on to getting a clean outline of the fish. When I was doing this outline, I actually traced the full body sketch that I did. I felt pretty good about it in general. There was a few things though that I wanted to change. Mainly, I felt that the initial sketch that I did was a bit too thick, so I kind of slimmed down the body a little bit, and I reshaped the face. I didn't feel like it quite matched what a neon goby's face looked like, so I just reshaped that. And after that, I was feeling good and ready to start on the color. This fish actually gave me so much trouble. The main issue that I was having was how to render the smooth transition of color and value on the fish's body in a digital format. I actually went to school for art, and I focused a lot on digital art in college. So I kind of went into this thinking that it would be super easy for me to do, but that was super far from the truth. If you can see in this video, I actually scrapped the whole fish probably 4 or 5 times. I could not choose on a base color, switch between light blue, dark blue. I just had no idea what I was doing. I even tried using gradients, as you'll see later on. None of it worked. Everything looked terrible. Kept scrapping my ideas. I was getting really frustrated. I almost gave up for the day, but I decided to stick to it, and I moved on to something that I was feeling a lot more confident on, which was the eye. I got the eye down really well, actually. I was feeling super happy with it. And I was actually able to use the same technique that I used for the eye through the rest of the body. That's a really good lesson to learn as an artist. If you're not feeling comfortable and if you're not feeling confident with something you're working on, start with something you are feeling confident in doing. So for me, again, that was the eye. Sometimes though, that confidence can actually give you that push to break through that mental barrier and help you to complete the rest of the artwork. So if you're ever feeling stuck, move to something you're feeling more confident on, and sometimes that can actually push you through to the end and help you finish that artwork. So the technique that actually saved me in this drawing was using masks. For anyone who does not know what a mask is, inside pretty much all digital art software, you can apply what's called a clipping mask. And essentially, this can be a custom shape, it can be just a generic shape, but it either completely blocks out or reveals only what's inside the bounds of that shape. So as you can see in this drawing, I first put down that super big kind of light area along the fish's back and side, and then I created a mask out of that, and I was able to draw only inside that area that I just drew and not have to worry about going outside of it because of the mask. The airbrush brush was my saving grace across this entire fish. This fish has really fine speckles all along its entire body pretty much, and this airbrush actually captured them perfectly. I was able to brush over areas in one stroke and just apply that super natural speckle that I saw along the fish's body to my own artwork, which is really awesome. Up until I added that light highlight along the bottom, I was actually really unsure still about how this artwork was going to turn out. I was feeling a lot better about it than I did before, but it didn't really fully come together for me until I added that lighter highlight along the bottom. That's when I felt like the fish was really looking like how it was supposed to, and I was super happy with it at that point. Another thing that I did that I really liked was add those little dots and speckles along the side of the fish. If you look at any reference photos that I was using, this fish, again, had those really defined speckles, but especially along the bottom and certain areas of the side and back, they were a lot more noticeable. And adding those, I think, really brought this fish to life. It really made it feel real to me. And this is when I really started getting excited about the drawing and was feeling super confident in finishing the whole thing out. The final challenge for me was the fins. As you can see, I actually completely erased all of the fins in the drawing. I just had this little tube shape going across my screen of the fish's body. The reason I did this though was because everything that I was trying up until that point was not working for me. Fins are obviously transparent, and it was really hard to capture that transparency in a digital format. The technique I ended up going with was actually kind of simplifying the fins a lot, not trying to get too detailed with it. I started out by just laying down the fins in a very light color, a very light blue, and then I would go back into this blue and I would add areas of darker value, areas of lighter value, but make sure that they were very smooth in terms of how they transitioned between each other. I wasn't going in and adding super defined areas of value or anything. I was just keeping it very light, very airy, again using that airbrush tool to kind of go back in and add very smooth transitions across the entire fin. After I had that, then I would come back in and add the rays. For most of the fins, I would do this super lightly. I didn't want to come in too hard with these rays because, again, a lot of times in the fish actually they were pretty light, but especially in the dorsal fins, I added them in really heavily. In the end though, my goal is to just try to keep the fins as transparent as possible, not overcomplicate them, just get the kind of base value and form down, add those rays in, and then call it from there. At the beginning of this video, I got the task of drawing a neon goby in a monochromatic color palette in a digital medium. I definitely struggled with this one way more than I anticipated. There were a few times in the beginning I genuinely was not sure what the path forward was and how to actually complete this challenge. For me though, that just makes the end result all the more satisfying. This is what I came up with for drawing a neon goby in a monochromatic color palette. I'm actually insanely happy with how this ended up turning out. After struggling for so long to get this looking the way that I wanted to, it feels so good to get a result that I'm actually really happy with. I think this fish truly demonstrates those smooth transition of values that you see in the actual fish. I think it turned out looking super realistic and just overall pretty awesome. If you guys enjoyed this content, please consider liking the video, turning on notifications, subscribing, and leaving a comment letting me know whether or not I succeeded or failed this challenge. If you want to keep watching, feel free to click the video at the end of this one. Thanks for watching. See y'all in the next one.